Well, your Cleveland Cavaliers falling 116 to 112 in their preseason opener, now 0-1. But basketball officially back here in Northeast Ohio. Welcome to the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI Postgame Report. Jon Rudder, Spencer Davies is on site at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. All right, Spence, preseason game number 1 in the books right now. And if you really wouldn't know it by looking out there on the floor, because a bunch of the regulars, we were chatting off camera, the core 4, sticking together out there. Kenny Atkinson using game number 1 to see what he likes and what he's got here in his group that are going to be seeing a lot of time out there on the floor for the wine and gold tonight. What'd you think of the coach's decision?
So I thought it was interesting that the core 4 played every single minute together tonight. There was no splitting them up. That goes for both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. None of them were off the floor. He used almost like hockey subs in a way, like 5 for 5, 4 for 4. These
Yeah, he's
mass
running line changes out
substitutions.
there.
Exactly, running the line changes. So that was really intriguing to me. All but 3 people didn't play tonight, so that was, he got quite a bit of people in there, and the fourth quarter obviously went more towards the young guys and the two-way players. We did have a couple guys get hurt, but that was pretty much what I expected in the first half. Second half, things stagnated for sure in the third quarter. They weren't getting as much stops on the defensive end of the floor, so then that just kind of led to some stagnation and a little bit of the ball sticking in the half court. But man, that first half, if we could just even touch on that, just that is, I think, what they envision with this offense. Evan Mobley being the guy, the primary guy, bringing the ball up, attacking the most. He had their most field goal attempts on the team tonight, which is interesting, just thinking from a perspective of knowing how aggressive Donovan Mitchell always is, and Darius Garland, Evan Mobley leading the team in field goal attempts with 14 tonight, and also just him getting everybody involved, and the fact that they were pushing the pace as much as they were, shooting early in the shot clock. I think that's exactly what Kenny Atkinson has envisioned.
Well, yeah, dovetails right into my next point that I wanted to ask you too here. You touched on Evan Mobley, the 14 shots tonight, obviously an emphasis on him. Kenny mentioned specifically during the, I think it was media days, about activating Evan Mobley and making him more of a focal point of the offense. I wanted to ask you, and we'll probably talk about this at length over the next couple of weeks as we lead up to the regular season tip-off. But, for the average Cavs fan, what are you going to notice about this Cavaliers offense under Kenny Atkinson that you might not, or that we mightn't have been used to under JB Bickerstaff? And you already touched about maybe the biggest thing, seeing Evan bringing the ball up the floor.
Yeah, just a lot of off-ball movement, John. There's a lot of off-ball movement. There's a lot of rebound and go, rebound and go. There were so many different times where when they were getting the stops on the Bulls in the first half that they were just pushing it down the floor. And, Darius Garland found Donovan Mitchell in transition. You had, Evan Mobley running the floor. You had Max Strus pushing the pace before he got hurt. That was, the kind of things that I think Kenny is going to really kind of implement to this team. I always think it's interesting that the guards are sprinting to the corners. That maybe is a trend we can keep an eye on, because he really wants those transition corner threes, which is, one, probably the easiest shot in basketball to get, and two, the quickest shot in basketball you can get, other than obviously getting into the paint and getting a layup. So I feel like that is going to increase their possession amount, and that's going to also increase their efficiency once they start knocking those down. We know they did not make the threes very well tonight. The best three-point shooters they had today were Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell on pull-ups and coming off of screens. But other than that, the generated threes that they had with Isaac Okoro and Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, whoever it was that got up a three, they weren't really falling tonight. But the process was good. They got up 48, and I think there was a good, healthy balance offensively just from that standpoint.
I also remember Kenny mentioning that the three is also going to be a priority, and you wouldn't necessarily see Evan taking 9 threes a game, but
Nope.
seeing him put up a couple, I think, is something that's going to go a long way towards respecting his shot-making ability from the outside, because, if they're pushing the pace like that, that's something that they're going to have in their repertoire.
100%. And the thing is, he got 2 up in his 18 minutes. Kenny was directly asked about that in the press conference, and he was like, "Yeah, that's probably about right where it is, because say he's getting 30 minutes a night, then it's probably somewhere around 3 to 4 of them, right? But it's just more about just kind of expanding his game and utilizing parts of his skill set that we haven't seen to this point, and at least not seen consistently. And a lot of it, they're talking like Evan's going to be the head honcho this year, just as far as the usage goes on some nights. And if he's attacking, getting downhill the way he was, and also one of my favorite plays of the game was when Jared Allen put it on the floor, drove and kicked to Evan Mobley in the empty corner, and Evan put it on the floor, probably 3 dribbles, and then flushed it left hand. Probably one of my favorite possessions of the game. That right there shows that Evan's much more capable than just being in the dunker spot and being someone in a screen and roll. You can use him in so many different ways, and I think Kenny understands how many tools he has in his tool bag.
I want to ask you too about that with regards to Evan and the physicality aspect of it. A 7-footer, he's long and lanky, but still just 23 years old. How has the physicality aspect of his game, and again, preseason game number 1, not a whole lot to take from it, but how do you look physically wise out there?
I think that he looked fine. He's adding weight consistently with each season, with each off season. So that he's going to be a little bit stronger in the upper body. I think that he's good using the rip through move. I think he also is able, when he's put it on the ground and he's backing guys down. I do not think Evan Mobley is at his best when his back is to the basket. But if he's going to utilize it, he's going to need to move bodies using basically kind of his lower area too, to just kind of create that space on his own. Didn't see too many hook shots tonight. Just again, a lot of baskets with momentum towards the basket. And I think that is going to be Evan's kind of comfort zone with this team in this type of pace, is going to be, man, you got to get the ball and get it going towards the rim, not just standing with it in your hands and trying to create momentum and trying to create some sort of mismatch. It's more or less dart towards the rim or find a way to get into the paint and then go to work from there.
We know Kenny is maybe a little bit more known for the X's and O's aspect of his coaching, and you were talking about Isaac Okoro and Sam Merrill having some specific plays drawn into the offense that we saw from them tonight. What'd you see from them, and is that something that we can maybe expect to see more of throughout the preseason as they tinker with this?
Absolutely. And again, they came up short tonight. They weren't making their shots. Sam had a little tough of a night. In his first 7 minutes, he had 4 fouls. Isaac Okoro, I thought,
they use him right.
Exactly. I thought Isaac Okoro actually looked okay, like physically, and he was getting to his spots and all that. He just was not making the shots. Looked a tad off, which we're not used to seeing that from Isaac Okoro in transition. He always finishes in transition. He always finishes when he gets a step on somebody, but just didn't have it tonight. And the 3-pointers were a little bit flat on that part. But again, Kenny kind of referred to it as training camp legs, and that kind of comes into play. But I thought that they got him in very good spots, advantageous spots for both Sam and Isaac. They did the same with Dean Wade, something we've not seen at all with Dean Wade since he's been on this team. People setting pin downs for Dean Wade, coming curling over to the nail to take a mid-ranger, and he knocked it down. And it was like, that's something we haven't seen from Dean before. He's usually a guy that just stands, but Kenny wants to make him cut. He wants to make Sam cut. He wants to make these guys who are only supposed to be spot-up shooters do more than that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he utilizes those role players, and he always talks about celebrating depth, so that's a big part of it.
Well, that you mentioned that too, and this is, I think, all going to go a long way towards when you have all of these other weapons. If you're able to maximize the skill set and put them in the position to be able to make a play or knock down a shot, that's only going to maximize things for, hey, Donovan Mitchell, who we know is going to eat pretty much every night.
Yes, absolutely. And one more point I definitely wanted to get to as well. In the fourth quarter, when the young guys came in, I thought that JT Thor was excellent. In just kind of being a presence down there. It seems like his arms don't stop. like he is a very long guy. And he got some rebounds, contested and altered some shots, thought he looked good. Jalen Tyson, get this. He came in for 1 quarter and led the team in rebounding by grabbing 7 of them in 1 quarter. And he was making hustle plays at the end, getting the Cavs extra possessions. I thought he did an excellent job coming in there. And then, it's interesting to see kind of who was in the initial rotation. The guys that were in there the most, I would say, give him some good minutes. But you saw, Dean Wade was in there. Tristan was in there for a couple of different stints and got them a lot of rebounds and did a good job of defending as always. But the hockey sub still is weird to me. I was like, I'm not used to seeing that. Used to see more combinations. So I'm curious to see if that kind of carries into the regular season. But obviously, this is game one, and this is experimentation time. So.
Sure, coach making some full scale changes there throughout the lineup with those line changes there. Want to bring this up too because it was something that you mentioned before we jumped on this podcast, and it really stood out to me. And I don't say this in any way to denigrate JB Bickerstaff, but you were talking about this game coming down to the end. A 2-point game there. It obviously ended up being a 4-point game, and Kenny drawing up a play that. Was with the goal of getting a corner three. And I appreciate him kind of maybe lowering the curtain and giving us maybe a peek behind the scenes because JB, you're going to, and again, nothing bad against JB. You're going to be hard pressed to find a better guy in basketball. A lot of times he wouldn't necessarily reveal that about maybe some specific X's and O's. And sometimes I just want to talk a little basketball and kind of appreciated a little bit of the transparency from the coach tonight.
Yeah, and I think it's also important that, people knew that he didn't draw up 12 seconds of Craig Porter Jr. dribbling it against the guy who's 6'11", and then taking a contested three. There was a corner triple drawn up in the playbook, and something might have, messed it up. Maybe it was a switch they didn't expect or something like that. So Craig took the ball and wanted to take the last shot. And, part of this also, this might sound like an excuse, but in preseason, he might not want to go to overtime. So he went for the win. And obviously it came up short. But got to credit Modest Buzelis. He did a great job of defending him in that isolation situation for, that 10 seconds they had it. And mind you, again, I brought up Jalen Tyson with that 7 boards in the fourth. They don't have that possession if Jalen Tyson doesn't poke it away from 3 different bowls at the end of the game and give him that extra chance. So that was awesome to see. And the Cavs bench really got up and celebrated with him. And, Donovan Mitchell's over there giving him high fives. Like that's great to see. And that just shows the camaraderie that these guys have. And I'll tell you what, in the locker room, everyone's still jovial. There was nothing, no one's going to be bent up over a preseason game.
Sure.
But it was definitely a mixed bag tonight. But I thought for the most part, especially in that first half, you saw what they're trying to aim for in that offense.
And you know what? Good for them for being able to use the preseason to get some live, real reps because that a Darius, a Donovan, the ball's going to be in their hands in that situation. Give it to somebody else and kind of see how they react in that moment. I think that's a good way, a good teaching moment to be able to use that here in the preseason. Exactly what it's for, right?
And I thought they played well off of each other. I thought DG and Don played off of each other very well. In their first 11 minutes, they had 18 points and 9 assists combined between them. They were looking for each other up in transition, something they talked about a lot in training camp. They were looking for their teammates, obviously, but I love seeing them get off the ball because that just, again, when Evan Mobley has it in his hands, that just opens up so much more because they've got to worry about Donovan Mitchell. They got to worry about Darius Garland. DG, many attempts pulling up in transition. He said he even, left a few on the table that he could have taken, but he still got up 6 tonight. And he's going to be aiming for that 8 to 9 range of the 3-pointers. A lot of them are going to be walk up in transition or off ball screens in the half court. That the step backs are there for him. The step backs are there for Donovan Mitchell. Those guys can shoot the heck out of the ball. So what do you want them to do to maximize their talents? Utilize that. They're really good at pulling up for 3. They're really good at just shooting the ball in general and also putting pressure on defense. So I thought they played well together, and we didn't see them play together a lot last year, I would say. A lot of staggering. All together today, 18 minutes and 46 seconds between the two of them. Thought that was big. I have one more note, too, before we get out of here. Max Strus did go down in the second quarter. He had a hip injury, right hip contusion. It doesn't sound like it's too serious, but Kenny Atkinson really didn't comment too far on that. And then obviously before today started, Amani Bates, they announced it yesterday, had a a surgery on his right knee to repair a arthroscopic knee surgery in his right knee. So that's some news that probably wasn't expected, but hopefully, he gets back okay, and I think that Max will be all right as well.
That walked me into my final thoughts here as we get ready to wrap this up here. Anything else that we should keep an eye out for as we prepare for Thursday night against the Pacers?
Yeah, just see how they respond to, again, what was kind of a stagnant second half, especially for the starters. We'll see, are they going to continue something we saw tonight? Dean Wade played the three. Kenny said they didn't do that once in practice, but they were kind of forced their hand because, Strus was hurt. And, when Sam Merrill wasn't on the floor, they were thinking about, okay, well, should we play at the three? So they went right to Dean Wade. And I'll tell you what, Dean looked fantastic defensively tonight as both the three and as a backup five. So he's very, very versatile in that sense. So maybe pay attention to that. Kind of want to see if he tinkers with the rotation at all on Thursday, just from a standpoint of, we saw, again, mass subs tonight. We didn't see too many 1-for-1s or 2-for-2s. It was 5-on-5 and 4-on-4. So we will see what Kenny does on Thursday, but looking forward to it. And again, if they can build off of the first half and kind of, do better than they did the second half of this one, they'll be all right.
All right, that'll wrap it up for us. Cavaliers back in action Tuesday when they host the Indiana Pacers. 7 o'clock tip-off at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. You can follow along with, again, all of our pre- and post-game coverage here on the Cavaliers on Sports Illustrated YouTube page, as well as the written content over on the website. Cavs 0-1 on the preseason after a 116-112 loss to the Chicago Bulls tonight. For Spencer Davies at the site and for Anthony Meglin steering the ship for us behind the scenes. Appreciate everybody tuning in for us. That'll wrap it up for us tonight. I'm Jon Rudder. Thanks for watching us. We will see you again on Thursday night.